Welcome back to a new Dying Light 2 video. A quick overview of what I'm really going to talk about here. I'm going to express some of my concerns about the story elements, the choice making system, how it might work, how it might not work. So the absolute number one reason I have doubts still about the story and choices is going to be because there's so many writers that have left Dying Light 2 over the years. And really, this all started with Chris Avellone, in my opinion. Chris Avellone was not the lead honcho on Dying Light 2, but we're going to take a dive into some of his recent tweets that give away what he actually worked on at Techland. At this point, we do have confirmation by Chris Avellone himself that he worked on 5 to 6 New Vegas story drafts for Dying Light 2, plus demo arcs, he says here. He says, however, the number of quests in the story drafts were easily over 100, not counting reactivity and branching, although PCs wouldn't see them on the first playthrough, sort of referring to the fact that there was going to be a lot of different choices happening on different playthroughs. Initially looking at this tweet, it sounds like he did a lot of work in my opinion, but it's a little bit confusing because some of his other tweets are him saying that he actually didn't contribute as much as we think. In the threads below, he responds to comments saying, "None of my writing in it, I'm afraid, as far as I can tell, but that's not a bad thing." He also says, "No, I'm pretty sure the quests are all gone." But it seems like some way, somehow, Chris Avellone is pretty confident a lot of his work is gone. This is something we speculated for a long time, but we didn't actually have numbers like he's giving out here, like hundreds of quests for the game and stuff like that. So as we start the timeline here, Avellone gets dropped in June of 2020. This is just about 1.5 years ago. And already I have some concerns just because if Chris is so confident all of his work is gone, as we remember, he was the actual host at E3 who was actually explaining through everything which choices we'll be able to choose and how they're going to affect everything in the world. They chose him to do that for a reason, probably not only because he's famous in the gaming world, but because he knows what he's talking about and he has contributed a lot to that project in that regard, I think. So already I'm looking at this and saying 1.5 years ago, is this going to be enough time for them to even pull off this amazing choice system they're planning out, or at least they were planning out in 2019? Then, of course, jump forward into late 2020, around October, November area. We saw Powell Sellinger leave Techland after 22 years, and from what I understand, he was the head narrative designer on the project. A little bit odd for someone that's been there for 22 years to leave the project right in the middle of development. Of course, back in the day, we were speculating possibly the story is done, which probably looking back on it was a bit naive, because as we know now, Piotr took over in late 2020 around November as well. That is the guy, if I pop him up on screen here, who has been in the Dying to Know episodes, which started in 2021, of course, and we were a little bit critical back in the day as well. Is this guy really going to know what he's doing, coming off of TV shows? Is he going to be able to translate it into the gaming scene? Maybe he kept some of the progress that was made in the story. I would guess he kept at least some of it, but the least that we do know is Chris Avellone's work back in June 2020 was being thrown around. That ended up getting thrown out. So we definitely know they've been revamping stuff within the last couple of years, and possibly the last like 1.5 years. And really, why is this important, you might say? They can probably write a pretty decent story in a year. Well, yeah, they can probably write one a lot quicker than that, but it comes down to a lot of the stuff Chris probably contributed to the game. They had to have choices and everything lined up for that. After those got dumped a year and a half ago, it comes to question, do they really have as much time as they need to make this amazing, exhilarating, possibly the most ambitious choice system we've ever seen laid out in gaming? I mean, seriously, if you don't remember what they laid out back in 2019, they were talking about different choices affecting the world's environment, different plot lines unfolding directly related to your choices. I really hope they can prove me wrong here. I hope somehow this whole time they've been working on different choices, different stuff like that throughout all these writers leaving. But to me, I mean, it's just not adding up. Chris Avellone leaving, he's saying his work is not in the game. Hundreds of his quests that he worked on and all of his branching and stuff like that. He doesn't actually specify if the branching and reactivity was still in the game or anything like that. But at the same time, you have to have a story to start laying out choices, right? It's one of many things that really has just not been adding up fully. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are expecting the same as I am, that probably the choice system is not going to be near what they showed off in 2019. And I really hope that's the worst of it, because there's a lot of other stuff we could be talking about here that we have talked about, like gameplay and stuff like that. To prove my point there, just really quick here, over the years they've been consistently saying that they've been prioritizing last gen. They've consistently been telling us that last gen is going to be prioritized and it's going to be their main focus. And if it really is their main focus, then why are we 30 days from release with no gameplay? But I'm just going to give it to you straight here. I have a lot of doubt on what's going to happen February 4th and what's going to happen when we get last gen gameplay. Is it going to look good? Is it going to look heavily edited? Thank you for watching the video. Like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.